Hi everyone, it's Sunday, March 19th, time for another HideNet Week in Review. I'm Vera Dordick. As you know, this past week was APLF in Dubai, and HideNet provided daily updates, so if you want specifics and you missed those, check out the videos on this YouTube channel. One interesting piece of news we picked up there was that the CLIA reported statistics for China's leather industry in 2022, and overall, hide and skin exports were down for the year. If you want to see the full breakdown by segment, including footwear and leather goods, check the HideNet US or international reports for last week. Starting with the US market, it was quite slow. Some producers claimed they had decent activity, but other sellers were definitely having an off week. Prices were steady despite poor demand, and that's partly because of some steers being well sold and partly due to the low level of activity. Looking at heavy Texas steers, prices were stable after last week's dollar drop. Selections averaging 64-66 pounds were unchanged at $26, while again, any volumes were modest. In the cow sector, sellers were faced with low interest and even lower bids, but prices remained steady for Holsteins. With regard to combined export sales for the week ending March 9th, they were again disappointing at 423,900, and that's about 12,000 pieces less than last week. Combined shipments, at least, were improved at 613,600, and that's up 26% over the previous week. Estimated slaughter for the week ending March 18th was 631,000, and that's incrementally lower than last week. Turning to Europe, editor Andrea Guallo says that there are some changes afoot after several weeks of a stalemate between buyers and sellers. In the UK and Ireland, prices were stable, and Italian tanneries were a little more active. The 36-plus kilo British ox is at 85 cents in sterling, and in Ireland, prices are also unchanged for sales to Italy at euros per kilo, but sales to China did see some increases in price. For European bulls, they saw some increases this week also. North German bull prices were up at €1.20 to €1.25 per kilo for the 40-plus kilo selections, and the heavy southern hides also made some good gains for sellers. With regard to European cows, prices were mostly stable. And in the veal sector, market prices aren't moving, and it's increasingly difficult to find top quality skins. In his analysis, Andrea runs down what's happening with orders and the increase in last-minute orders, which is making it hard to plan. And in fact, we heard about this issue from exhibitors in a number of regions while at the Dubai Fair, not just in Europe. And finally, Andrea also updates the prospects for the medium term in the industry. From South America, editor Ronald Guiel reports that raw material prices were steady and fresh hide prices unchanged at $1.36 per kilo. TR1 also remains unchanged at 70 cents per square foot. Other Latin origins were again stable. In other news from Brazil, the country's February hide exports were lower in volume and value. They totaled $75.4 million, a drop of more than 24% from the previous month, and 31.3% lower than the same month last year. Data from the Ministry of Industry and Foreign Trade that were analyzed by the CICB show that the total exported in square meters in February was down 26.2% from January and 7.3% from February last year. In fact, for the first 2 months of the year, exports were 17.5% less than in 22, that is in value, but in square meters, they were 6.6% higher. Brazil's beef packers are losing big during the suspension of sales to China. Reuters reports that they are down $20 to $25 million per working day. Also, FEMEC was a big success, including for Brazil's footwear sector, but at the same time, we have a report that the domestic footwear industry has already lost jobs this year due to the increase in cheap Asian imports. From elsewhere in Latin America, Argentina's footwear, tanning, and leather goods production all grew in January. Chile's retail imports were low, but clothing and footwear were higher in 2022. From Colombia, we hear that Cucuta and Brazil are going to cooperate to innovate in the footwear industry. We have news from Cuba, where the Santiago de Cuba footwear industry is looking for investment from China. And finally, in Mexico, CEPAL has closed 93 companies over the past couple of years, and 90% of those were tanneries. That is all we have for this week, and until next week, good night from HideNet.